What if love didn't need to ask for permission? From the neon nights of Hong Kong to the ancient streets of China, these 12 BL couples dared to show that same-sex love is just as real, just as powerful, and just as deserving of a spotlight. For many LGBTQ+ viewers, their stories weren't just fiction. They were hope, a mirror, a quiet reminder that love exists in all forms, even in places where it's still fighting to be seen. So tell us, which couple moved you the most? Drop your thoughts below because every voice matters in this conversation. Tin and Muck from Ossan's Love Hong Kong, 2021. It all started like most accidental love stories do, with confusion, denial, and just the right amount of workplace chaos. Tin, our perfectly average, slightly clueless office guy, had one goal in life: avoid drama and maybe find a nice girl someday. But life had other plans. Enter Muck. Tin's tall, serious, who also happened to be hopelessly in love with him. The kind of love that lingers in awkward silences, burns in late-night glances, and shows up in the most unexpected confessions. And just when Tin thought things couldn't get weirder, he found himself caught in a love triangle. Yep, because one secret office crush wasn't complicated enough. What made Tin and Muck's story hit harder wasn't the comedy or the chaos. It was the moments in between. The way Muck's eyes softened when Tin wasn't looking. The way Tin's heart raced, even when he swore it didn't. The fights that weren't really about food or chores, but about two people terrified of what they were feeling. For every joke, there was a heartbeat of truth. For every sarcastic comeback, there was a vulnerability neither of them wanted to admit. And somewhere between shared umbrellas and late-night dinners, friendship quietly turned into something neither of them could name. But everyone watching? We knew exactly what it was. In a city where expectations are loud and love between two men still comes with more questions than answers, Tin and Muck gave us something rare. Two imperfect guys, stumbling, fumbling, but choosing each other anyway. Their story wasn't about grand declarations or dramatic kisses. It was about showing up, staying, letting walls come down, one awkward, beautiful moment at a time. For every LGBTQ+ viewer who's ever waited for a love like that or wondered if it was even possible, Tin and Muck's journey was more than just TV. It was a reminder that love doesn't need labels to matter. So, tell us, which Tin and Muck moment made you laugh? Which one hit a little too close to home? Drop your thoughts below, because if their love taught us anything, it's that feelings have a way of showing up when you least expect them. Then, Ming Wong and Cheung from I Go to School Not by Bus. Picture this: Ming Wong, a soft-spoken, introverted art student who finds comfort in the quiet corners of his sketchbook and in colors that speak louder than words ever could. Cheung, the openly gay, vibrant school athlete whose energy could light up an entire auditorium. Hai is the kind of guy who doesn't just walk through the hallways, he owns them. Every laugh, every playful tease, every confident step leaves a ripple behind. Both of them attend a strict Christian high school in the heart of Hong Kong, where the word different feels like a sin, and being openly queer is a silent battle no one dares to fight out loud. Ming had spent most of his school years blending in, keeping his head down, letting his art speak the feelings he could never say aloud. Hai, on the other hand, had chosen a different path. Bold, loud, unapologetic, but even the loudest voices get lonely. One random afternoon, their worlds collided. Hai started with a casual, almost annoyingly cheerful conversation about art supplies. Then talks about homework turned into sharing music playlists, then late-night texts about life dreams, and then those deep 2 a.m. conversations about fear, loneliness, and identity. Ming, who had always built emotional walls higher than he could climb, suddenly found himself disarmed by Hai's honesty. There was something magnetic about someone living so unapologetically in a place that punished people for doing exactly that. But in schools like theirs, nothing stays private for long. Whispers started, side eyes in the cafeteria, judgmental looks from classmates. And the worst part, teachers like Mr. Mac, who didn't even try to hide their disdain. Comments were made in class, thinly veiled, but pointed enough that both boys felt the sting. The air grew heavier. especially for Ming, who wasn't even out to himself yet. For anyone watching, especially those in the LGBTQ+ community, Ming and Hai's journey feels like a quiet revolution. A reminder that love, in its rawest form, refuses to be erased. Coming up, Qiushi and Ruan Nanzhu from the Spirealm. In the eerie corridors of the Spirealm, where each door conceals a nightmare, Qiushi, a pragmatic, grounded man, finds himself entangled in a that defies logic. Amidst the chaos, he encounters Ruan Nanzhu, a figure as enigmatic as he is captivating. Initially, Ruan appears as a fellow survivor, his charm and wit providing a beacon of hope. But as they navigate the treacherous doors together, it becomes evident that Ruan is more than he seems, a guardian of the 12th door, an entity who chose to abandon his formless existence to experience love as a human. Their bond deepens with each perilous trial, transforming from mere alliance to an unspoken, profound connection. Ruan's decision to forsake his immortal nature for Lin is not just a romantic gesture, it's a testament to the transformative power of love. Their relationship is a dance of subtle glances, shared silences, and moments of levity amidst despair. Ruan's flirtatious demeanor contrasts with Lin's stoic exterior, creating a dynamic that is both heartwarming and humorous. Their interactions, filled with teasing and genuine care, offer respite from the surrounding horrors. In a world where love is often constrained by societal norms, their connection stands as a beacon of authenticity. It challenges conventions, illustrating that love transcends gender, form, and even reality itself. Their story is not just about romantic affection, but about finding solace and identity in another person. As the narrative unfolds, Lin faces a harrowing choice: to return to a reality devoid of Ruan, or to remain in a fabricated world where their love thrives. Choosing reality, he endures the pain of separation, only to be reunited with Ruan, who defies his own nature to be with Lin once more. Their reunion is not just a romantic climax, but a powerful statement on the resilience of love. It underscores the idea that genuine connection can overcome even the most insurmountable barriers. Their story resonates deeply, offering representation and hope to the LGBTQ+ community and beyond. After that, Yuelou and Xiao from Blue Canvas of Youthful Days. In Blue Canvas of Youthful Days, Yuelou and Xiao didn't exactly fall for each other at first sight. Yuelou, the golden boy with family expectations as heavy as the sky, walked into that tiny art studio with a chip on his shoulder and a name that carried weight. On the other side of the canvas stood Xiao, a self-made, fiercely independent artist whose paint-stained hands spoke of late nights and silent struggles. Their first encounter? Let's just say, it was more sparks than soft smiles. Yuelou criticized. Xiao rolled his eyes, but beneath the sarcasm something lingered. Because here's the thing about art, it forces you to feel. And when you're standing shoulder to shoulder, breathing in turpentine and broken dreams, feelings have a funny way of sneaking up on you. As days turned into nights and casual conversations turned into lingering glances, Yuelou found himself drawn to more than just Xiao's artwork. In Xiao's quiet resilience, Yuelou saw freedom. In Yuelou's restless vulnerability, Xiao found someone worth fighting for. Their love wasn't loud. There were no grand declarations in crowded streets. Instead, there were sketchbooks passed between hands, coffee cups left at doorsteps, and moments where silence said everything words never could. But make no mistake, this wasn't some fairy tale. Yuelou's father, a man whose definition of success didn't leave space for same-sex love, cast a shadow over every decision. Xiao's own insecurities whispered late at night, asking if love with someone like Yuelou could ever last. Still, they stayed. Through misunderstandings, through heartbreak, through the overwhelming fear of being seen, they stayed. By the end, what they created together wasn't just a collection of paintings. It was a masterpiece of quiet defiance. A love story born not in secret, but in slow, deliberate courage. Yuelou learned that love isn't something you apologize for. Xiao realized that sometimes the risk of heartbreak is worth the color it brings to your life. And for every LGBTQ+ viewer watching, their story became something even bigger. A reminder that love, when it's real, will always find a way to leave its mark. So as we step away from paint-splattered walls and heart-shaped sketches, it's time to trade watercolors for something a little darker and a little more dangerous. Let's meet Jiang Yuelou and Chen Yuzhi, a love story forged between duty, betrayal, and impossible choices. And then, Jiang Yuelou and Chen Yuzhi from Killer and Healer, in a city torn between violence and survival, where trust was a luxury and loyalty could get you killed, two men crossed paths at the worst and somehow the best moment of their lives. Jiang Yuelou, a hardened, emotionally shut-down police inspector with fists quicker than his temper, and Chen Yuzhi, a gentle, soft-spoken doctor who still believed in kindness, even when the world gave him every reason not to. Their first meetings? Nothing short of a disaster. One believed in law, the other believed in saving lives. One pulled triggers, the other stitched wounds. But somewhere between late-night stakeouts, back-alley treatments, and all those lingering glances they never dared to explain, something deeper started to grow. Something neither of them had words for. Chen Yuzhi wasn't just patching up Jiang Yuelou's gunshot wounds. He was healing something years of trauma had buried. For every bandage he placed, there was a question Jiang never answered. For every injection, there was a silence that spoke louder than any confession. Jiang, for all his stubborn pride, found himself drawn back. Again and again, to the small clinic with the doctor who somehow saw through all the armor. Their moments weren't grand declarations or dramatic speeches. They were half-finished sentences, shared cigarettes, and late-night walks where one would slow down, just enough for the other to catch up. In a time and place where two men loving each other couldn't be said out loud, they said it anyway. In actions, in sacrifices, in the way Zong would risk his life without hesitation, and the way Chen would wait every time, hoping he'd come back alive. Their story wasn't perfect. It was messy, complicated, sometimes heartbreaking, but at its core, it was love, the kind that doesn't need labels or happy endings to feel real. Which moment between Jiang Yuelou and Chen Yuzhi hit you the hardest? Which scene made you pause, smile, or maybe even tear up? Drop your thoughts below, because stories like theirs deserve to live on in every comment and every conversation we create together. Next, Ling, Ming, and Cheng Yi. From In Your Heart, 2022, let's talk about In Your Heart, a little gem from 2022 that gave the Chinese BL community a story full of sweetness, struggle, and soul-stirring love. At first glance, Ling, Ming, and Cheng Yi seemed like your typical childhood friends, playful, annoying each other, and pretending they didn't care. But deep down, something was brewing. For years, their connection went unnoticed, hidden under layers of teasing, late-night conversations, and those stolen glances that lasted just a second too long. When you watch them, there's tension, the kind where your heart screams, "Just confess already." But like many same-sex love stories, their journey wasn't about grand gestures. It was about the small moments, walking home together, sharing food. Ling, Ming pretending not to be jealous when Cheng Yi smiled at someone else. You know, classic, I'm not in love, but yes I am behavior. But behind all the fluffy scenes and romantic buildup, there's a deeper truth. Even in 2025, same-sex love, especially in countries like China, is still seen by some as something to hide, something to feel ashamed of. And that's heartbreaking. Ling, Ming, and Cheng Yi didn't just fight for each other. They fought against every whispered judgment, every awkward silence from friends, every parental expectation that screamed, "This isn't how you're supposed to love." There's a scene in the series where they finally allow themselves to be vulnerable, to admit what they feel. It's not loud, it's not dramatic, but it's real. And for anyone who's ever loved someone society said you shouldn't, that moment hits hard. Why is it that even in 2025, some people still think same-sex love is something shameful? Why is being authentic, being human, still seen as a rebellion? Here's the truth. We weren't born to fit someone else's mold. We weren't put on this earth to follow outdated rules about who we're allowed to love. We were born to feel, to connect, to build relationships that make us whole, to recognize ourselves in the eyes of another person and say, this is me. This is love. Ling Ming and Cheng Yi's story reminds us that love in all its forms deserves to be seen, celebrated, and respected. Their story isn't just about two boys in a small town falling for each other. It's about every person who's ever questioned their place in this world. So, after watching In Your Heart, here's a question for you. Have you ever hidden your feelings just because you were scared of what others might think? Let's talk about it. Drop your thoughts below. And remember, your story matters. Now, Pak and Hoi from Twilight's Kiss 2019, in a city as fast and restless as Hong Kong, where people rush past each other every day without so much as a glance. Pak and Hoi seemed destined to remain strangers. Pak, a 70-year-old taxi driver, had spent his life following every rule, duty to family, quiet routines, and keeping his heart's deepest truth buried far beneath layers of silence. Hoi, a retired single father, had his own share of emotional baggage, loneliness, regret, and years spent pretending that wanting something more was just a phase. But fate doesn't care about age, or fear, or decades of emotional walls. One afternoon, under faded cafe lights and casual small talk that felt more loaded than either man expected, they found something neither was looking for: companionship, safety, a spark of something they'd both long ago given up on: love. Their relationship didn't unfold like a drama filled with grand gestures or sweeping confessions. There were no Hollywood-style kisses in the rain. Instead, it was soft, quiet, stolen moments in parks, late-night walks, hesitant touches that said what words couldn't. Every glance between them felt like a conversation decades in the making. Every shared laugh, every gentle teasing about Pak's stubborn pride or Hoi's terrible cooking became proof that love doesn't have an expiration date. And here's where it hits you. Watching two older men fall in love on screen, with tenderness and vulnerability, feels revolutionary. Because society doesn't hand out love stories like this to men their age. Let alone two men loving each other unapologetically in a city that often told them they shouldn't. At its core, Twilight's Kiss isn't just about two men finding each other. It's about reclaiming time, choosing happiness, and finally saying, my life, my heart, still matters. Pak and Hoi's journey speaks to anyone who's ever felt too late, too scared, or too invisible to believe they still deserve love. Their story reminds us that love, when it comes, is always right on time. So here's our question for you. Have you ever seen a love story that made you rethink what's possible for your own heart? Let us know in the comments below. Because visibility matters, and every story like Pak and Hoi's helps light the way for someone else still searching for their own Twilight kiss. Moving on, Ding Junjae and Ying Ming from Capture Lover 2020. At first glance, Ding Junjae and Ying Ming couldn't have been more different. Ding Junjae was the definition of professionalism. Serious, hardworking, and always by the book. As the deputy marketing director of a top cosmetics company, he had little patience for nonsense. On the other hand, Ying Ming was a walking headache. As the CEO's son, he strolled into the office with a carefree attitude, breaking rules and stirring up chaos wherever he went. Every encounter between them felt like a collision course, one fueled by frustration, sharp words, and stolen glances filled with tension. But everything changed when Ying Ming's past came knocking. Desperate to escape the relentless pursuit of an ex-girlfriend, Ying made a bold proposal. Pretend to be my boyfriend. Ding Junjae should have walked away, but curiosity and an unexpected pull kept him in the game. What started as a charade quickly took on a life of its own. From awkward coffee dates to staged romantic moments, Ding Junjae and Ying Ming found themselves playing the part a little too well. The lines between act and reality blurred. Every fake smile turned softer. Every casual touch lingered longer than it should have. Ding, once cold and distant, started noticing the vulnerability behind Ying's playful smirks. Meanwhile, Ying found comfort in Ding's quiet strength, realizing that beneath the stern exterior was someone kind, someone who cared more than he let on. Their fake relationship became the safest place for both to be their true selves. But with growing feelings came growing fear. Could this fragile bond survive once the pretending stopped? As their connection deepened, reality hit hard. Whispers spread through the office. Family expectations loomed like a shadow over them both. Ding Junjie worried about risking his career, while Ying Ming faced the daunting task of standing up to his powerful father. The outside world wasn't kind to love stories like theirs. Every step forward felt like a battle against prejudice, misunderstanding, and fear of judgment. But instead of breaking, they fought harder. Together, they chose love over comfort, truth over pretense. Late-night confessions, stolen kisses, and moments of raw honesty became their new reality. Capture Lover isn't just a workplace romance. It's a story of courage, about two men discovering that the heart wants what it wants, no matter the rules. Watching them stand together, you can't help but wonder, would you risk everything for love? Afterwards, Feng and Chen from a round trip to love. It started like many college love stories do, with stolen glances across lecture halls, late-night study sessions that turned into confessions, and two young hearts learning what it feels like to fall for someone, unexpectedly and deeply. Feng and Chen weren't just classmates. They were each other's safe place in a world that didn't always feel safe. But love, especially same-sex love in a conservative society, comes with a price. When their relationship became too obvious to hide, the walls closed in. Family disapproval came first. Harsh words, ultimatums, threats about their future. And when society added its own brand of judgment, fear took over. In the end, they did what so many young LGBTQ+ couples are forced to do. They let go. Not because they wanted to, but because they thought they had to. Fast forward a few years. Life moved on, or at least, that's what they told themselves. Chen landed a job at a prestigious company, ready for a fresh start. What he didn't expect was to walk into his first meeting and come face to face with his new boss, Feng. The air changed. Old feelings, buried under years of distance and silence, rose back like they'd never left. Awkward glances across office hallways, late nights working together, moments where their hands brushed and both froze, remembering everything and pretending to feel nothing. But love doesn't stay buried for long. As they found themselves drawn together again, the old fears resurfaced. Office gossip, professional boundaries, and those lingering voices from the past reminding them, this isn't how things are supposed to be. But this time, they were older, stronger, more willing to fight for what they wanted. Their story became less about hiding and more about choosing each other, choosing love, even if it came with risks. Feng and Chen's journey isn't just about romance. It's about resilience, about reclaiming love after losing it once. Have you ever loved someone and wondered what would happen if life gave you one more chance? Tell us below. Let's celebrate every story that dares to say, love is love and it's worth fighting for. Then, Yuan and My Ding from Like Love 2014, it all started with a dare. My Ding, your typical awkward, slightly overthinking college student, found himself caught in a late-night dorm room bet. His friends, with that classic mix of boredom and bad ideas, dared him to ask one simple yet wildly inappropriate question to their next-door neighbor. Hey, are you into guys? Now, enter Yuan. Tall, brooding, rich. The kind of guy who walks into a room and somehow makes fluorescent dorm lighting look like a fashion runway. When My Ding finally built up the courage to ask, Yuan didn't miss a beat. He smirked, shrugged, and casually replied, maybe I'm bi, who knows? Cue internal screaming. For My Ding, this was like setting off fireworks inside his own brain. Curiosity turned into obsession, and suddenly he was finding every excuse to accidentally bump into Yuan, like borrowing sugar or pretending his Wi-Fi was broken for the third time that week. But here's the thing about playing with fire. Eventually, you get burned. As days turned into weeks and accidental meetings turned into late-night talks, something shifted. The teasing, the stolen glances, the lingering touches that lasted just a second too long. And Xian wasn't just a mystery anymore. He became comfort, safety, and maybe something more. For my Ding, falling for another guy wasn't something he'd planned. Definitely not something his family had prepared him for. But love, well, love rarely asks for permission. Of course, no great love story comes without a battle. Family expectations, social judgment, and let's not forget, Xian's older sister, who had enough protective big sister energy to power an entire city. At every turn, both my Ding and Xian faced moments where walking away would have been easier, safer. But love, real love, it doesn't back down. It grows louder, stronger, braver. Their journey wasn't perfect. There were tears, arguments, and moments of doubt. But in the end, it was about two people choosing each other despite every reason not to. Because sometimes, the most beautiful love stories are the ones that aren't written in fairy tales. They're messy, complicated, and absolutely worth fighting for. Next, Xiao and Yuan Zong, from Advance Bravely 2017. What happens when a spoiled, carefree rich boy crosses paths with a no-nonsense ex-Special Forces soldier? That's the magic mix that makes Advance Bravely one of the most beloved Chinese BL dramas of its time. On one side, we have Xiao, born into privilege, known for late-night parties, flashy cars, and a long list of admirers. But behind that playboy image is a young man secretly struggling to find purpose and searching for something real. On the other side, Yuan Zong, tough as steel, calm, collected, and running his own bodyguard training company like a military boot camp. When these two worlds collide, sparks don't just fly, they explode. And let's be honest, who doesn't love a good enemies to lovers setup? With a side of testosterone-fueled tension? Their first interactions, let's just say subtle, was never part of their vocabulary. Xiao's cheeky attitude and reckless behavior put him straight on Yuan Zong's radar. At first, it was about discipline. Training sessions turned into wrestling matches. Lectures became late-night stakeouts. And somewhere between sweaty workouts and awkward glances, the energy between them shifted. One moment they're throwing punches, the next, Yuan Zong is patching up Xiao's wounds with just a little too much care. There's a slow burn here, built on teasing, pushing boundaries, and, let's admit it, some serious longing stares. Even though the Chinese censorship gods tried their best to water things down, fans could still feel the chemistry radiating off the screen. Because when love wants to speak, even silence becomes loud. It became a quiet rebellion, a symbol for BL fans hungry for authentic queer stories, no matter how many scenes were trimmed or altered. Viewers didn't just watch Xiao and Yuan Zong, they rooted for them. For moments where their fingers brushed, for hidden smiles, for every glance that screamed, "I want you," without ever saying the words. And maybe that's what made their love story even more powerful, because sometimes the most beautiful connections are the ones that survive against all odds, against censorship, against silence, and against every rule that says two men shouldn't fall in love, but do it anyway. Drop your thoughts below. Let's keep this love story alive together. And finally, Peijia and Su Yi from The Sparkle in Your Eye 2023. There's something undeniably magnetic about Peijia. Once a beloved TV star with fans screaming his name, now a struggling actor lost somewhere between faded spotlight and self-doubt. Years of scandals, bad press, and personal heartbreaks had left him questioning his worth, not just as an artist, but as a human being. On the other side of this emotional storm stood Su Yi, a fresh-faced rookie actor, full of passion, wide-eyed optimism, and, whether he admitted it or not, a secret admiration for Peijia that ran deeper than fandom. Their first meeting wasn't cinematic, more like awkward small talk on set, sprinkled with Su Yi's nervous energy and Peijia's cool, jaded disinterest. But behind every casual glance and half-hearted joke, something was starting to spark. As filming progressed, Peijia found himself noticing things he never thought he would, like the way Su Yi stayed late to rehearse, or how his laughter could light up the coldest day on set. Meanwhile, Su Yi's admiration evolved, shifting from fanboy excitement to something softer, something dangerous, something undeniably romantic. Their chemistry became impossible to hide, both on screen and off. Directors noticed, fans speculated, yet neither dared speak the truth aloud. Late-night conversations blurred professional boundaries. Casual shoulder touches lingered longer than they should. The age gap, the industry gossip, the fear of what people might say, it all hung in the air like a question no one dared answer. Until one rainy night, after a long shoot, Peijia finally asked with that familiar mix of sarcasm and vulnerability, "You gonna keep looking at me like that forever, rookie? Or are you gonna do something about it?" What followed wasn't some grand confession under the stars. It was messy, hesitant, full of stumbles and backpedals. But that's what made it real. Peijia, with all his broken pieces, found healing in Suyi's unwavering presence. And Suyi learned that love isn't always shiny and new. Sometimes it's about choosing someone even when they're at their lowest. Together, they challenged unspoken rules of the entertainment industry, proving that love, especially queer love, deserves its place in every story. Their relationship became the heart of the show, and slowly, part of the conversation in a society still learning how to love without labels. And maybe that's what makes the sparkle in your eye so unforgettable. It's not just about two men falling for each other. It's about finding hope after you've almost given up on it. And there you have it, 12 unforgettable couples who proved that love knows no boundaries, no labels, and definitely no borders. Whether it's stolen glances in ancient dynasties or secret smiles on modern film sets, each story reminds us that same-sex love deserves to be seen, celebrated, and told without fear. If this video made you feel something, if it opened your heart even just a little, then that's the real win here. Let's keep supporting LGBTQ+ stories, not just in China, but everywhere they're fighting to be heard. And if you want more inspiring, unfiltered stories like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button, check out our other videos, and stay with us on this journey of visibility, pride, and love that never backs down.